What you wanna be? Step 4. Everybody just do your thing.
Wake up, today's gonna be a good day. 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 Wake up.
Welcome to Tales from the Field. It is so good to have you with us. We are back and better than ever. My name is Bradley Ball. Last week was an amazing week. We had Pam Lahoud, Principal Program Manager from the Azure Data Platform team, more specifically the Azure SQL Virtual Machine team. We talked about technology failures. We talked about lessons learned. We talked about new VM series and past summit announcements that her team is going to make. Dan hosted. I was disqualified for the third time. Niraj won. Way to go, Niraj, which means Niraj is the host today. Andreas Padilla is out for the next couple of weeks. However, in his place, we have our great friend, Dan Taylor, showing off that he is Andreas 2.0 right there. We had to roll forward the version after the community roundtable. Dan is a senior Azure engineer on our team. He is data focused. He is DBA Bulldog over on Twitter. On Thursday, we had Microsoft Data Platform MVP Matt Gordon on the show, 5-time Microsoft Data Platform MVP. We also had the community roundtable where we covered a lot of the amazing content that you contribute out there. All of those links are available on the YouTube page, in the comments underneath that show. If you haven't seen those episodes, though, don't worry. Stay right there. The show is posted live to YouTube afterwards, and you can stream it at your convenience. If you want to interact with the show right now, we are streaming out of the Twitter accounts of Tales from the Field, SQL Balls, Niraj Jafari, and Josh Ludeman. Also streaming on my LinkedIn account over at SQL Balls. We are also streaming out of the YouTube channel of Tales from the Field. You can comment on any of those streams, and one of my wonderful co-hosts will look at those comments and they will add them to the show. Don't forget, we are less than a week away from Live 360. This Sunday, Buck Woody, Josh Ludeman, and myself will be delivering our hands-on ground-to-cloud SQL workshop. Go to aka.ms/live360 to see more about this. Sign up and come and spend the day on with us. Josh, where are they spending it? Oh, you're muted, Josh.
We forgot.
Muted. They are spending it at the beautiful Lowe's Royal Pacific Resort on the luxurious grounds of Universal Studios Orlando. And I hope that all of these beautiful words I keep saying will result in some kind of free weekend at Universal.
Here's hoping. I'm with you, man. At this point in time, I'll take it. A little Harry Potter world. That sounds good. Before we go any further, though, let me introduce these co-hosts. We are joined by Daniel Taylor, Josh Ludeman, and say your prayers, eat your vitamins, because the man with the biggest pythons in the business is in the house, the one, the only, Niraj Jafari. Niraj, you are hosting today. What is the topic?
So 11/11 is Veterans Day, and that's the reason I was going to bring up a topic for security, right? Security is very concerning to everybody, and particularly in Azure, we take security very seriously. So that's what the topic is: data security, any sort of security.
That's a fantastic topic. I love it. And it, as if it couldn't get any better than that, joining us is Andrew Nathan, Principal Engineering Manager from the Azure Fast Track Infrastructure team. He is joining us in the Electrons today. Andrew is a veteran. Thank you, Andrew, for your service. We really appreciate that. He is a security aficionado, and based off his facial hair, dare I say, the best looking version of Robin Hood since Errol Flynn. Just perfect. I love it. How you doing? Welcome to the show, buddy.
I'm well, mate. Thanks for having me. Looking forward to a fun chat for the next 30 minutes.
Absolutely. A quick reminder to everyone, because Niraj, thank you for mentioning it. In the United States, Veterans Day is on 11/11 this Friday. We want to take a moment and we want to make sure and thank all of our veterans for their service, their courage, their sacrifice, their families as well, because it's not just a veteran who makes this, it's the people that they leave behind. And we have to keep in mind what a huge sacrifice this is. If you see a veteran, thank them for their service. If they're standing in line for coffee at a Starbucks, buy them a coffee. Do a good deed, volunteer, or donate to a charity that helps veterans causes. Our freedoms that we have in this country are because of the veterans that we have who have sacrificed for them. So thank you to all of you out here that have served our nation. We really appreciate it. And our allied nations.
maybe if I can interject, Brad, I know it's not my place to say, given that I'm Australian and I can't vote in this country anyway, but one of my veteran friends actually said today that, thank you for our service equals go and vote. Those freedoms were fought for a very specific reason. So take the opportunity. If you want to thank a veteran, utilize those freedoms that you have.
Absolutely. I tell my kids, America doesn't ask much of you, but she asks that you vote. And today is that day. If you haven't already, I know I went out and I voted weeks ago when the early voting opened up here in Florida. For those of us that were in states that could take advantage of that, that's always a wonderful thing to do. Andrew, I couldn't have said it any better than that. That was a beautiful sentiment that you said. And today is the day. If you haven't voted, please make sure and go out and vote, because it's very important. It helps determine the future of our country and where we're going and what we're doing. So now that that's been said, Dan, this is your second week as a co-host. How are you feeling?
I'm feeling great. Coming off of a great weekend where I volunteered at Nature's the Guardian, raising some money for our raptor rescue that we're part of. Got some great health news. Make sure your loved ones get out there and get their health checks. We got our third check, and I'm sharing it. Missy's probably going to be embarrassed. But, she's been clean for 3 months now with her health checks on her upper body. Breast cancer is serious. So get your loved ones out there and get their checks. So I'm on a natural high today, and with some of my best friends in the world. So it doesn't get any better than that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I absolutely love that. And I know it's a PG show, but fuck cancer. Yeah,
Language.
I said, I know. I said it.
You just made Niraj's camera go off.
I did. Niraj is like, I'm out. I don't want to be
Whoa.
with that.
Language.
Yeah.
Language is
And
getting
our
serious.
good friend,
I'm here. My camera just went off.
I know. I apparently embarrassed your camera. And thank you. Yes, Lonnie says, congrats, Dan. She's also right, talking about Andrew and the best guest so far. Certainly the most dashing and debonair. I completed the half marathon this weekend. I got this really cool medal over on the Disney World campus. Neat thing is this is all rings. And then this was the challenge because we did the 5K. Josh did the 5K as well. Congratulations to Josh. I love that Coco medal.
Look at that.
I'm wearing the T-shirt that we got from that. And then I did the 5K, the 10K, and the half marathon. And you get this beautiful challenge medal. You open it up, and the genie from Aladdin. I love is on the back. It says only 2 wishes left.
Shortchanged.
Hey, that's okay. I'll take it. So, Niraj, do you want to do a quick reminder of the rules?
Sure. So I and Andrew both can give points to the team. I cannot be the host for the next week. And Andrew, feel free to give a point from minus, negative to a positive, whatever you want to give. I mean, we have guests who have given like million points to Brad and disqualified Brad. Only person who can get disqualified so far is Brad in this show. So
I'm not. Is
And
that
he's
really a
earned
rule?
it.
mean,
He's earned every
I'm the
disqualification.
only one who's been disqualified, but is it really just me?
You have earned
smell
every
it?
disqualification in spades, sir.
You know what? I know I earned the last one, to be fair.
You earned the first
he
one.
has
But
3
then-
disqualification.
I was going to say
He's-
Josh disqualified me the first 2 times. Dan disqualified me last time, but it was partially because of the pain of the technology failure that I caused him when we worked together. So I feel that Dan's is justified. Nothing Josh does is justified.
You know what? No. So the first one was warranted. The first disqualification, and I'll be honest, the second one was purely for fun.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you can admit that.
Yeah, absolutely. The first one completely warranted. Second one, yeah, that was just fun. That was like, I did it once, I'm going to do it again. This is going to be great.
Well, speaking of great things, Andrew is here, and Andrew, security is a passion of yours. So is volunteerism, and your work internal to Microsoft on behalf of our veterans. Talk to me about these things. Tell me how they guide you.
Yeah, it's an interesting way to phrase it, but I think naturally, well, maybe not naturally. For me, it was natural. I fell into security through what I did in the military. I was an information systems technician, which meant that I owned everything from the router in. So endpoints, user accounts, applications, all that kind of stuff. So, having what people are calling zero trust now was something that it was baked in for us. And it wasn't until I joined Microsoft and I started getting sent out as a premier field engineer that I realized that not everybody else was doing it. And I'll be honest with you, and I've said this in a couple of different forums, and I'll say it here for any other veterans who might be watching or thinking about transitioning, or have recently transitioned. Like I struggled when I first joined Microsoft. I was in uniform on Friday. I joined Microsoft. It was a public holiday on the Monday, but I joined on the Tuesday. And I joined as a platforms engineer, which for anybody who was in that side of the business, platforms was anything Windows Server, which there's a lot. And yes, a little bit. And I struggled. Like in all honesty, I couldn't find a direction. I didn't know how I would be successful. And I started in the October of 2016. December 2016, I turned to my wife just before Christmas. I said, I can't do this. I've made a huge mistake. I need to get back in the army. And went and had leave and went back to visit some family because military postings, we didn't live near family at the time. And my manager called me and said, hey, we've had like a last minute ticket pop up. Did you want to go to Ready in Seattle? You have to go in the first week of February. I was like, yeah, I did. That'd be awesome. I said to my wife, it might be the last thing Microsoft ever send me on because I don't know if I'll last. And then I went, and every session I went to was with the security sessions. And for the first time since joining Microsoft, I was like, I get it. Like, I can do this. Like, I know the answers to these questions. I know how to solve these problems. I came back and I was all excited. And I talked to my manager and he just sighed. He's like, oh, I'm going to lose another one to security, aren't I? I was like, what do you mean? He's like, you can do security as a job. And, that old adage, like, find something that you love and you'll never work a day in your life. I mean this genuinely. Since finding out that I could do security for a living, like, I, for the most part, enjoy showing up to work every day. And maybe it's the part of me that gets to tell customers you're doing it wrong. That gives me that sense of passion or whatever it is, but that really helps. And then, like I said, all of it sort of tied in together. I'm super passionate about having been a veteran and having served, and knowing that I struggled getting out. I like to give back to as many people as I can. So I mentor people that are still in uniform. I have friends and family that reach out when they have loved ones that want to join the military, and I talk to them about building a plan for being in uniform, because what I say to people is, like, if you join just for the sake of being a soldier, sailor, airman, or air person, or even a Marine, then you're shortchanging yourself. Like, you need to have a plan, and same as you would with an IT career. Like, understand what you want to do and what you want to get out of it, and follow that. And then I do a lot of helping people that are in uniform who think they can't translate those skills, realize that they can, that they have done a lot of impactful things. It's not just the Army or Navy, Air Force, Marines. Like, friends go, oh, well, I've never worked on a project. And so, well, you've deployed outfield on an exercise, haven't you? Well, let's break that down. That's a 9-week thing where you've got to meet specific targets and do specific things to get to the end goal. So what does that look like? What did you have to do? What the steps were? Who did you have to liaise with to achieve those things? That's project management. How do you frame it? And we have those types of conversations. So with that, I'm luckily enough, I was able to start the Australia New Zealand chapter for the military at Microsoft Employee Resource Group back in 2019. So we kicked that off with, ironically, this week, 3 years ago, we went, our first event was laying a wreath for Remembrance Day in Australia, and some of the other countries we call it Remembrance Day or Armistice Day, not just Veterans Day. We went and laid a wreath with the GM of Australia, Stephen Worrell. That was our official kickoff for that part of the chapter. And then when I moved here to the US, I tried to kick off the Colorado chapter. And then a couple of weeks later, I got asked if I'd like to nominate to be on the board for the Global ERG. And since then, I've been one of the events co-chairs, and obviously this week we're in the middle of a whole heap of stuff which will culminate with a keynote with Shannon Huffman Paulson on Friday, who's a pretty badass person herself who's done was the first female Apache helicopter pilot. So she'll be, and she's going to come and talk to us about military culture and how it translates to civilian world. So Brad, I don't know if I answered all your questions, but basically for me, it's all one and the same. I got my passion and skills for security came from the military, and being a part of the military makes me want to give back to other people that are either getting in or getting out, so I can help them with their journeys.
So Andrew, one of the things I love to talk about is the soft skills, right? We're not just technologists, we're other people, we're real people. Do you find in your being an advocate, yeah, I know some of us are real people, being an advocate for the Microsoft, the military folks at Microsoft, are you reaching out, or are other organizations coming to Microsoft and using folks like yourself to build in these support groups? Because I know a lot of folks have that difficult time transitioning from military to civilian life. Do you find you're working with other organizations and building this big umbrella to help the veterans of the world out there?
Yeah, absolutely. And it depends on the geography. Like here in the US, there's a lot of things that are already sort of set up and established, and the military affairs program or side of Microsoft has been around for a long time. So they've got the things like the Military Software and Systems Academy and partners and whatnot that are involved in that. But yeah, we have people from, like, I left a call with Fireside Chat with Dr. Derek Abbey, who works for Project Recover, which their organization goes out and repatriates missing veterans that have never come home. And they go and do that kind of stuff. So we, try and organize conversations with people for that, because I think, to your point, Dan, like not everybody, like some people just do this stuff as a job. Not everybody is passionate about, their things. So they look for other avenues. And so something like that, being a part of that kind of project, or being able to give back in those ways, is where those people find that passion and can do those kind of things. So we like to try and make those connections, because not everyone's going to care about the fact that they're a veteran and they work for Microsoft, but they might want to give back to these other organizations. Or if it's something like merging vets and players, we had some really good sessions recently with those types of things. And we've been lucky enough to be consulted by the Coalition, the guys that make Gears of War, about how do we incorporate, they want to make sure they incorporate real veterans and real feelings and things like that, and make the game as realistic as possible. I don't want to give away too much of what we've talked about with them, but we've had conversations with organizations like that, and then not a charity, actually the recruiting organization that got me into Microsoft, they've reached out because they want to build a transition program for veterans that's going to be free back in Australia. And so they wanted to know my experience and whether or not, I found their services valuable, and what I think veterans would need from an organization like them to be successful with a company like Microsoft.
That's beautiful. I love how you translate this. And it's interesting that so many people don't realize how much those skills translate, but 90% of that job is understanding how we connect people, how you get the right people in the room, how you actually take action. If it's a process that you have to define, putting together that SIP and SOP, that's product documentation right there, to be able to say, yep, here's how this works. And I mean, those are invaluable skills.
I lost count of the amount of times we're just like, showing my age a little bit, but I guess we just had a CD like flung at me. It's like, go and install this and figure out how it works, and then reverse engineer it so other people can install it next time. And so you sit there and you write it all down, you take screenshots, you take photos if you can't take a screenshot because it's on a classified system. And here's where you need to enter this, and highlight the bit on the disk and all those kind of things. So build those documents. So we've all done it with veterans, and I think that's the bit. Like, I think the biggest difference between somebody who's, and I don't mean this to sound like elitist or anything, but somebody who's only been a civilian versus somebody who's been in the military, is that the people in the military don't have that opportunity to sell themselves, if that makes sense. Like, if one of my soldiers had come back in when I was the corporal and going, "Oh, hey corporal, I did this," I'd be like, "Cool, you did your job. Like, off you go." Whereas here you have to go, "Hey boss, I did this, and it was super impactful," and those kind of things. And that's really the mindset that you have to help people change, because that becomes really hard. And it doesn't matter whether it's a veteran here from the US or from Australia or anywhere else. That's the bit that becomes hard, because you feel like you should be recognized just for doing a good job rather than having to go and sell your stuff. And that's the toughest lesson I'd say to learn coming into this kind of environment.
How to be able to shift that mindset to realize you're not just doing your job, you're actually being exceptional by accomplishing the things that you're accomplishing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, because there's a lot of humility that gets with that process. I mean, you have to get things done. That's the nature of the work.
100%. Like, you get sent out with, like, I've been on gigs where it's like literally just me in a briefcase, and I have to go out and support something and make it happen. And if we think about the theme of today, like security, like I've got to secure everything in that. And I had like physical keys to unlock things and do all that kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, it was still my job to make the things occur. And I'll never forget, I was the personal SIG for the head of SOCOMAN for Australia. So anywhere he went, I was supposed to go with him. We had to go and achieve comms. He was actually giving a brief to, I don't know if you guys have heard of the Maris brothers. They're a religious order. And for some reason, I don't know, I wasn't rank enough to ask, but this 2-star general had been asked to go and present to them. And I had to go with him because at the same time he was presenting, he had to give the okay for a kill or capture mission to occur. And so I had to establish comms for him in the middle of the country where this monastery or whatever it was. And I had like one briefcase, and we're out in the middle of nowhere. I had one SATCOM, like what we would call a Coke can. I had some 4G dongle, and I can't remember. I had like this little, can't remember, Iridium SATCOM phone thing. And that were my 3 means. I get into the car with this 2-star general, and his first comment to me is, "Colonel so-and-so and I have a bet about how quickly you'll fail." I was like, oh shit. And we still had like a 2-hour drive to get to the place. So I'm just sitting there sweating bricks with this 2-star general, like, oh man, like he already thinks I'm gonna fail, so this is bad. And I was like, 1 for 1. I didn't need any of my backup means. So I got it up, we made the call, he did whatever he had to do, and off we went. But like I said, like all of that, so that was establishing comms, engineering a solution in an area where there was nothing else to help me. No one else to help me. Like these Maris brothers weren't going to come out and go, oh yeah, you can plug in over here. And to help me. And then I had to secure everything as well, because this was like a highly classified call that he was going to be a part of. So I had to make sure that no one could see, no one could hear, that I had all of the stuff to make the secure call secured, cared for, accounted for. The call occurred. I had to log certain things that happened because this is an immutable log, because, Brad, having worked at some of the places that you've worked, like those types of decisions don't get made lightly, and often need higher levels of approval than just a 2-star general that's the head of SOCOMAN. Like there's a prime minister or a president or someone that's saying, yep, go do it. And so sitting there in the corner of the room listening to recording everything, so that way it goes in the immutable log and can be used if anything ever happens in the future. So a lot that goes into those types of roles. And then I'd say, like, hindsight, we as veterans and military people at the time don't give ourselves enough credit for like achieving something cool like that. I will say one last thing. My coolest thing that I ever did, and it was the last job I ever did before I got out, and it was funny because I put in my discharge paperwork, and they said, "You're not getting out of this job just because you're discharging." I was the first person in Australia to establish a Skype for Business call on the back of a C-17 at 9,000 feet. So
wow,
yeah, so,
that's great.
That was my big claim to fame. And then like 2 weeks later, I was wearing my Microsoft Polo.
That's I got to tell you, if that's not on your LinkedIn, dude, that should be.
I did a Skype call from 9,000 on a C-17. Done. That's it. Game over. That's it.
Yeah.
Perfect. Amazing. Thank you so much. So the last thing, and I know we've talk for a while, but I also want to say if there's any link that you have or anything where veterans should look for assistance, shoot me that. I will put it in the comment section of this, but anything that you want to point out to folks, please feel free to point out, and we'll make sure and put that. But you're absolutely right. To all the veterans out there, you are doing absolutely incredible things, and the fact that it is just your job to do incredible things means that you are very well equipped for the workforce. And there's a lot of people that would love to be able to help you. And there are wonderful organizations set up to do that. So let's make sure anybody who is out there who's looking at transitioning, we try and find the help and the assistance for them that we can get. I always love it. I find a lot of veterans in the IT community, and I think it's wonderful that we have so many folks in here, because it's a mental fortitude and an attitude that is built, that you can't buy. That is just, it comes with the individual, and those folks are some of my just flat out favorite people on earth. I know that we do have to start playing the game
for the call.
No, you're okay. So
good.
so Dan, you're up first on our topic of security ops, and this could be spec ops, this could be data, anything in particular. Give us your conversation. Give us your story.
Yeah, I know we're in a bit of a speed round here, so I had a couple, but the one that I really want to call out, because it made me think of a couple of things, is I was part of a security team, and it's the small things, it's the little things that can help keep your environment secure. And I was part of a security team where we would go in on an unannounced time, usually on a Saturday or a Sunday. We go in early and we would walk around the call center looking for exposed passwords. So people would literally keep passwords in unlocked drawers, smack dab on their monitors, under their monitors, those type of scenarios. Those things happened. And what that really makes me think of is, first off, you really want to provide access of least privilege. You don't want to give people access to everything if they don't need it. So keep that in mind. But a lot of this could have been alleviated or really reduced. The footprint could have been reduced if you use things that are available in SQL Server. For example, we have dynamic data masking. We have column level encryption, where you have a certificate and you can column level encrypt your sensitive data. And now we have security enclaves, right? So if you have data that needs to be secured within your environment, not only provide access of least privilege, but as a team think, do I need to use some of these technologies that, for example, we at Microsoft or SQL Server provide? So that's kind of my story and where I was like going in my head with, oh, we could have prevented this. Rather than having to walk around, why not obfuscate that data and not let anybody see it so that it couldn't get out there and get breached in the real world?
I like that. And one of the things I always tell, it's nice to think about the access that you think you should have, but what access do you really need? Like, what do you actually use to, like, doing your job every day? If you look at that, they're two different lenses. And that's why I tell organizations when I talk to them, is like, audit what they actually do and then remove all the other access.
Yeah, and I was going to say, even from my perspective, and Dan, you kind of hit on where I was going to go too, is it's the little things. I mean, we talk about, zero trust and everything like that, but to get there, you've got to do the little things right. And even my first full-time DBA job, I walk in the door and, the sysadmin looks at me and goes, so since you're the DBA, we're going to give you domain admin. And I'm going, no, I don't want that. No, keep that away from me. Time out. Let's not have this conversation. Go away. And then I walk in and I start looking at logins on servers and even production server. And there's, a login for a consultant having, from 4 years ago that hadn't been in the environment in like 4 years. And they had, the, admin account or admin level access on the production server. And I'm going, oh my gosh, the little things are the important. Don't focus on the North Stars yet of zero trust if your house is not in order. The little things are what's going to bite you the easiest and the quickest.
Don't let good be the enemy, or don't let perfect be the enemy of good, right?
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. So very well done. Ooh, Josh in the lead with 3,000 right now, I believe. So my story, when I started out, within my first couple jobs, I was contractor for the U.S. Army, and I did that for about 5.5 years. And I moved over to the Obama White House, and I was with them until November of 2010, just before I hit 3 years. And when I went in there, I would say one of the key things was I was told what systems were important. And there's a phrase, trust but verify. And I was told that this database had super important data and it was encrypted. Well, it was running SQL Server 2000. And again, 2008 R2 was out. That was the newest release for SQL Server that had come out. And I didn't understand how they encrypted a database in SQL 2000 because I knew that wasn't capable by the storage engine. So I go and we have a cab to review this. And what I did was I looked, and what that third-party software had done was it had actually renamed all the base level tables, set up a view as the old table names. And in the script of the view, it had made it seem like fields were masked, but it was passing through all the data. And so every single bit of that data was unencrypted sitting in the base tables. And we go into a security review with some 3-letter agencies. And one of the things that I said was, hey, we really need to upgrade. And my justification for this is we need to use column level encryption. We need to use certificate level encryption. We need to use transparent data encryption. And they said, well, this is already encrypted. And I said, no, it's not. It's what this software did was it created views. None of this data is encrypted. And I was told, no, it's encrypted. And I said, look, I can go down to the base level table. I can do a select star. Yeah, no. A is definitely in these 3-letter agencies, but that's the only. And there's a C in one of them, but the B not so much. But some of them are also 4 letters now. Anyway, that's not confusing. But so. I say to them, to the folks from these agencies, I go, we can do a select from this table because auditing also is not enabled on this system. I said, but you're not going to want to see the data that comes back. And I'm not going to say specifically, but let's just say there were a whole bunch of names, home addresses, and additional sensitive information for people that we would not be exposed to the general public. I closed that very, very, very quickly. And they were happy I closed it very quickly because you didn't want to have this stuff memorized sitting around in your brain. And needless to say, that was the justification. There are so many little things to look at. Absolutely. Start at the big things. Make sure you're aging out security accounts. Make sure you're looking at the things. But also, if you have a third-party vendor that says something it's a little too good to be true, it probably is. Trust but verify. In anything that you can do. I've had great discussions with Microsoft PMs about transparent data encryption, certificate, column level. All of us are willing to have conversations with people in the general public, with MVPs. It's important to understand this data. Josh is just going crazy with the banners over there.
That last one was not me.
That was not me too.
Wow. Okay. So
I was actually trying to do one that said trust but verify. I was going all professional, and then all of a sudden Brad was exposed comes out, and I'm like, whoa.
I'm going to say, I think I'm about to knock down people's admin accounts so people can't make banners anymore.
I think both you and Dan have touched on one of the key things that I see all the time, and I'm from customers from Australia through to Singapore, Japan, all over the world that I've dealt with. Like the biggest part of the problem is that those third-party tools are ridiculous. Like I had one customer, we determined they hadn't patched anything since like 2011 or something, but they'd plugged into Retina, and Retina was pulling data from SCOM, and because they'd selected the install packages they wanted, everything in SCOM was green, so they were green, and they refused to. Like we handed them the report and went, "Here's all of your servers that aren't done." But the biggest part of all of that is like human nature. We're lazy. We want a shortcut. And like, we don't want to add attacks. It's the same reason like personal accounts get compromised, because you don't want to put MFA on your phone. Like, and then I have friends call me or, family members like, oh, help me undo this. I'm like, you're on your own. Like, I told you to use MFA. I told you to put like.
Yeah. The tough thing about tough things is they're not easy. And everybody goes, how do I make this easy? Well, you don't. And it's on purpose, because when you make it easy, somebody else comes in and goes, thanks for making it so easy for me to steal your identity.
Yeah. Well, and that's what I've said to my wife's got a friend at the moment who's terrible story. Her husband has passed away, and she's been keeping his Facebook account open so she can give it to the kids so they can see the memories and things like that. But it's been compromised, and Facebook's taken it down. There is no way for her to get it back now. And Facebook are refusing to negotiate it with it and all that kind of stuff. But like the things that I've said to people, and you're exactly right, like the tough things are tough for a reason. Like, but at the same time, fighting a fight like that emotionally for somebody who's not in a corporate world, that's huge. Like she lost her husband to cancer, like has raised 3 kids since on her own, and now she's fighting with Facebook to try and get this account reinstated. The same goes with like organizations that tell me it's just too hard. Oh, we've got this happening over here and this happening over there. Like, but what's hard now? Like doing the legwork now, or spending 4, 5, 6 weeks recovering from an incident. Like,
oh yeah, people don't understand. If you have compromised credentials, you're not using multi-factor authentication. This is the brilliance of the cloud, but this is the danger of the cloud. Somebody compromises an individual in your organization and they have the wrong level of permissions. You can spin up hundreds of thousands of dollars of charges within days, sometimes even hours, because hackers will come in and they may be crypto mining. They may be doing DOS attacks. They may be doing things with your compute. And the fact is, those are situations that could all be avoided if people just literally did the difficult things and went, let's make sure that we've got 2-factor enabled on everything. Look, I get it. It's a pain. I go and I do demos at conferences and I have to sit there and 2-factor authenticate when this unknown IP that I am now on goes to connect to my Microsoft Azure account. But you know what? The few times that somebody has tried to spoof my account and I get an alert on my phone and I go, oh, you're trying to log in from mainland China, or you're trying to log in from Russia. I'm clearly not there right now. So I'm going to hit no, I do not accept this. That's it. Those are those key moments. I once had someone actually try and reach me on text message to tell me that my Azure account had been suspended and I needed to give them my Azure account information. And they were claiming to be a CSS tech from Microsoft. And this is the one hacker I actually engaged with, because I replied to them and said, really, you also work for Microsoft? Give me your name so I can look you up in the games. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. My father's gotten that phone call before, oh, you have a support issue with your Windows machine, and let me help you with that. And he goes, hold on, let me call my son who works for Microsoft and he'll get me set. Thanks. And hung up on him. Yeah.
Yeah. The one thing I'd say to Brad, to echo that, and this goes out to any like managers or anything that might be watching or participating, Josh, looking at you. I always check, like, because I get notifications that somebody on my team has initiated like a password reset or something like that. I always, like, as soon as I get that, I ping that person like, hey, just so you know, got this alert, is everything good? Because like they may not have seen it. If their phone's been spoofed or something like that, they may not have seen it. And your point, Brad, is, trust but verify.
All right.
I trust my people are doing the right decisions and might be getting a new phone or trying to set something else up, but I want to verify it with them and make sure, because if it's not,
good news
let's
for Lonnie. She's getting a huge refund. That's also good news, because
nice.
I had I got this scam recently. Somebody texted me and they were from another country and they had a huge amount of crypto, but they couldn't transfer it out into their bank account. And I literally looked at the text and I'm like, what happened to the Nigerian prince? This makes me feel old.
It's the next generation. Damn it.
I know. Can you give me your crypto link? I'm like, nah, dude, no.
Not even if I had one.
Yep. Yeah. All right. So I saw some points were assigned in there, Niraj, but I don't know.
I was thinking Andrew, who gave the full, for his services, all of them. Andrew, I was going to nominate you the winner, but you cannot be a winner because you're a guest on this show.
I appreciate
it. And just because the next person who served the agency, and not as a veteran, but at least I would give it to Bradley this time as a.
Suck it, Ludeman.
I was going to give it to Brad because I like that color shirt on him. So.
Oh yeah. So both of us decide to give you to be ours next time.
Oh God, this feels so good.
In honor of voting day, I want to recount.
But
I was going to say, this judgment is final.
Dan's done his own research.
There is a fine print. Brad, you cannot disqualify Josh next week.
Because Brad is spiteful. Brad is
I am.
spiteful.
I am. Oh my goodness, Niraj, how could you?
Suck it, Brad.
All right, well, fine. I guess I'll just have to settle for disqualifying Dan. That's okay, Ludeman. One day, coming for you.
When you
No.
least expect it.
Exactly. All right. So
You can come at me all you want. You can't catch me.
Yeah, whatever. Anyway, congratulations to me. Quick reminder, Thursday is the Community Roundtable where we will be covering your great content. Remember, get submissions into us so that way we can get it onto the show. Love the submissions that you've been sending to us. The past summit, there is a Tales from the Field session that we recorded, Migration to Azure SQL, that is available already to people who are attending the past summit remotely or in person. It is virtual content that is available. Please go check it out. And if you have any questions, reach out to us on Twitter. We can't wait to hear from you. Live 360 starts Sunday. This week, Josh, myself, Buck, Woody, we will be live at Josh, the
Beautiful Lowe's Royal Pacific Resort on the luxurious grounds of Universal Studios Orlando, where you can get bacon on an abnormally large donut.
bacon on a voodoo donut. Andrew, you live here now too. You're in Orlando. You've been to Universal Studios. You understand how wonderful this is.
That is wonderful. I need to circle back on the bacon on a donut.
Oh yes. Oh, it's
Whoa. Voodoo donuts?
Andrew, you and I will crash these, whatever they are, technology specialists, and we'll get ourselves a donut.
All right.
See, Ludeman, you're with me now on disqualifying Dan, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought so. Okay, so I think that's it. Is there any other? Go vote, donate to Veterans Cause. Remember that Veterans Day is this Friday, and make sure and thank anyone who has served in the served for our country. Thank you, Andrew, so much for being with us. We loved having you. Anyone else? Anything? Are we good? All right. Well, gentlemen, I hope you have a great week. I will see you on Thursday for the roundtable. Take care, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Today's gonna be a good day. Wake up. Today's gonna be a good day. Wake up. Today's gonna be a good day. Wake up.